For the past 3 years, I've gone off each year to through hike, racking up 7,000 miles walking across the country, only working a few months in between each trip. And this next year will be no different. Whatever you want in life, if you really want it, it has to be your #1 priority. All of these trips won't work if you don't actually want it. So here's what you can do so that you as well can do this every single year, or at least once. Try and live below your means and cut out unnecessary expenses, like eating out. Instead, cook at home. Don't buy things you don't truly need to live. You know, all those little gifts and things for the aesthetic of your apartment or your home, they're not necessities, so just cut them out. You'd rather go hiking or travel to Aruba. Maybe you can find cheaper housing. I know rent is a huge sink for money because you don't actually own that thing. Now, if it's just for 3 months, regardless of how old you are, or if it's just for a month or a couple of months, maybe moving in with a friend or moving back in with your parents for a short amount of time could be a really smart thing to save a lot of extra money right before you leave for your trip. And maybe find free things that you like to do instead of spending money on going out or going bowling or whatever. How about going fishing and going hiking or doing yoga or surfing or all these other things where maybe it's one expense to start, but then from then on out, it's pretty much free. Personally, I like hiking in my off time. I also like painting and drawing and playing with yo-yos and other stupid little things, but the point of it is it's free, and I don't then feel the need to go out and spend money on things that aren't traveling. Now, how about selling stuff you don't actually use anymore or don't actually need? This isn't really going to be a very great way to add a lot of money to your repertoire, but it can be something, and who knows, maybe you have stuff sitting around your house or your apartment that is actually worth something and you just don't really need it. I personally don't really do this that much. I usually just give away all of my old things to either friends or Salvation Army, but it can be an extra way to get an extra $50, maybe $100, couple $100. Now, similar to that last thing, although it is just a couple dollars or $50 or so that you might make from selling old goods, think of every single dollar as 1 mile that you could hike. An extra $200, that's possibly the John Muir Trail, all the food and maybe even the housing that you would need to go hike the JMT. So this is a great way when you're spending money and when you're saving and selling things to really help you save that money. Because then you'll feel less inclined to, spend $1 here or $1 there. Now you realize that those little dollars add up and they're a lot more important, and that could go towards an entire month worth of travels in the end. Now, something that's a lot less appealing, but I know a lot of serial through hikers, triple crowners, double triple crowners do this. They get a second job. Even if it's just for a month or a couple of months, maybe seasonal, if you get a second job, maybe just part-time, then that's a lot of extra income. If you're doing all right on your first job, then every dollar from the second one can go towards your traveling or your hiking and through hiking. Right now, I personally have 2 jobs. Now, with my old job, something I used to do a lot more is cut down on gas use. I would ride my bike to work. I would ride my bike to friends' homes. Gas, it's pretty expensive, and you wind up using your car every day, so if there's something that's a couple miles away from you, or at most 10 miles away from you, or even more, then ride your bike. Save the money on the gas use. Now, my favorite thing is to learn and live and love what you already have. So not buying extra things and not needing to go out to eat, and just loving how you are already living, and without having to get more stuff or new stuff. Just walk around and appreciate what you do have. There are a lot of people with a lot less than me or you, most likely. So if you just don't feel the need to buy any of those other things, then a lot of these tips are kind of moot, just because you're already happy with everything in your life and you just don't really feel like you need to spend money on more. Currently it's driving my girlfriend nuts, but I'm just so happy doing what I'm doing. I'm so happy with my job, and I'm so happy with a lot of my stuff at home and my life at home, that I just don't really feel the desire to go out and do other things. And it's driving her a little bit mad, but I think it's just a special time when I am this satisfied with it. And I think that feeling really does come from through hiking as well, where you're just happy with less. So for everything here that you do, you're that much closer to every year being able to take 6 months off and go hiking or traveling and do all these fun things. It just takes a little bit of effort and really knowing your priorities and what you want. This hiking stuff and this traveling stuff is what I want, so I will do everything in my power to get it. But one last thing to consider is that you don't necessarily need to go on a 2,000-mile hike to have an incredible, life-changing experience. There's a lot of really amazing shorter trails out there that you can also hike that will give you that life-changing experience you so desire. Say the John Muir Trail, or the Sheltowee Trace Trail, maybe the Florida Trail, or the Ice Age Trail, or the Wonderland Trail, or the Tour du Mont Blanc. And you know, there's so many cool things out there that you don't necessarily need to go after the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail or the CDT at first. And sometimes it's really good to go after one of these shorter trails first, just to realize whether you actually want to do this or not, whether you want to make these other sacrifices in your life so that you can do a 2,000-mile trail. So consider starting off with a 200-mile or 300-mile, or me right now, I'm really interested in doing a bunch of 200 and 300-mile trails just in a row, back to back. Now, above all else, this stuff gets easier in time. It gets easier and easier with each step that you master, with each thing that you master here. And then before you know it, you'll be going off on your thru hike and having the time of your life. And the next year, if you really enjoyed that first one, maybe you'll be trying for your second one. But one thing is that it does require a little bit of sacrifice, unless you just happen to be making an incredible amount of money, in which case you probably don't really need to be watching this video.